Yes? Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, so welcome to Sacramento Creative Economy meeting. I'm Shira. Thank you for being here. I'm going to be real quick with this. Um, there we go. Etiquette, we're here to share ideas and opportunities. Everybody is welcome. Kindness and sustainability is key to everything that we do. Different perspectives make a community stronger, so you might hear different opinions here. Please assume positive intent when listening, speaking, and responding. We're all here to support each other, help each other, collaboration over competition. This is what makes a community thrive, and we want to celebrate each other and help each other. Objectivity. This meeting is an informational and doesn't endorse any candidates at all. The goal is for the community to learn about the candidates that are running for office objectively, and for the candidates to meet and learn about the Sacramento creative community, meaning the soul of Sacramento. This meeting is produced and hosted by the Atrium. City staff are invited as guests to participate, to share opportunities that are happening, and actively listen to what's happening within the community. That way they can take that and incorporate that as they're planning programs. We do have city logos. That is because we have received some grants and funding from the city, so we are presenting those logos. They are not endorsing any part of this meeting or any part of the candidates whatsoever. Oh yeah, we're not bound by city rules here, so you can swear here. If you feel that makes you feel more comfortable, go for it. We're a safe space. Features. This webinar is going to be archived on our Creative Economy page on our website, and we will be sharing that. Q&A, to ensure your questions get answered, we want you to ask questions. Please ask them through the Q&A model, and it's easy for us to kind of see them. And you can also ask them anonymously. So if you have a question that's kind of deep, you don't want to go for it. Chat. This is where the panelists and attendees can share links to resources that are being discussed. So if you have an event that is happening, you have something you want people to know about, share it in the chat. We're going to be sharing resources and links in the chat, so feel free to copy and paste. And the chat also will be archived on our website. Be kind. Share your ideas and struggles. That's really important. And anything you feel the panelists and government should know about. And as I said, you can be anonymous if you wish when you ask your questions. Acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that we gather on the ancestral territory of the Nisenan people, along with additional unrecognized tribes. We honor the people, elders, and ancestors of this land, and may we remain in service to revitalize their culture, land stewardship, and wisdom, ensuring that their legacy endures. We recognize the significant disparities that persist in economic opportunity and environmental well-being within our region and beyond. It is the diverse voices that are within our community that bring forth creative ideas and solutions. We must ensure that these voices have a seat at the table and that we collectively find the resources to bring their visions to life, building a future that is kind, creative, and sustainable for all. And with that, here's the agenda. We're going to get into with Donald. Donald's going to talk about some opportunities that are happening within the city, and there's some new stuff that are happening with artists, which is really exciting. We've got Steve Hansen here and Phil Pluckybum, which I don't see yet on the call, but hopefully will be here soon. And then Kevin McCarty, who is going to answer some questions. And again, we want to understand what Kevin McCarty's vision is for the future and how he plans to, share his insight. And there is Kevin right now joining. Perfect. Cool. So just if you don't know about the Atrium, we're a creative innovation center for sustainability. We are the intersection of an environmental organization, an arts organization, and economic development organization. Where those three overlap, that is where the Atrium exists. I'm going to be very brief. We have our circular economy marketplace. If you don't know and you make something that is creative, and we want to help micro manufacturing here in Sacramento. So we have an incubator and accelerator, and that is to promote sustainable micro manufacturing here in Sacramento. So you can shop. So if you're doing your holiday shopping, shop sacramento.shop, because that's all Sacramento made. All right. What is a circular economy? It's just designing smart. It's designing without waste. Right? Recycling, you recycle once and then it still ends up in the trash. But a circular economy is how do we develop an economy that works for everybody and we're designing out the trash. And I'm happy to talk about more, but not on this meeting. If you've never visited us, this is kind of what we look like. And right now it's Halloween. We have an art gallery, an art cafe. You can come and make art with us. We have a mobile art cafe, a zero waste mobile art cafe that goes out to the community. And we have our TV series, Citizens of Planet Earth. And we do activations. We do a lot. Does it seem familiar, Steve? Something here. A lot of projects we've done over the years. We love doing creative projects that educate on sustainability and creativity. We have upcoming is our Sustainable Santa, where we do family holiday portraits, affordable for the community, but also we educate on sustainability, and you can craft your own clay ornaments. For our creatives, we have Eco Art Market vending. So during the holidays and now until the end of the year, if you want to vend, practice anything, we have a permit with the city. You can pop up in front of the atrium. So if you want to find out more, we're going to put the links in the chat. Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. So pop up, test out. There's lots of people in Old Sacramento, especially around the holidays. So for resources, we always update this on our website. If you go to our website, Atrium 916 Resources, we always have up-to-date opportunities and grants that are happening right now. So please utilize that. And I'm going to get into our advocacy with the city. This is city budget, kind of like timeline. And right now, the city is asking for input on funding. What priorities for 25 for the fiscal year of 25 and 26? So we're going to put that link in the chat. Please go answer, say what you think should be cut or not cut. That's what they're asking because creative economy is on the line. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing. Sorry, that was a really quick overview. And I'm going to pass it on to Donald.
Terrific. Thanks, Shira. My name is Donald Gensler. I run our public art program with the city of Sacramento. And we're really thrilled about these creative economy gatherings. Gives everybody an opportunity to learn more about both what's happening in the city and across the city. So I'm going to speak just super briefly about art in public places. We have one opportunity that's going to come up in our newsletter. So I'll put this in the chat, but I encourage you to sign up for our newsletter on City of Sacramento, art.cityofsacramento.org. Again, I'll put that in the chat. If you're not signed up for our newsletter, please sign up for that. The opportunity that'll come up in November is for a new mural project, phase 3 of Aggie Square. So there's been phase 1, phase 2 just concluded the review process or the application process. And phase 3 will be a singular exterior mural. It would be a $50,000 commission, and we'll have all the details in the RFQ, but it's an exciting opportunity to do a mural on the side of a parking garage in the new Aggie Square area. It is not a city project, but sometimes our office does get hired to do selection committee work. And so that's what we're doing here. And we're doing the call for Wexford and UC Davis, who have been developing this Aggie Square project. So check that out in our November newsletter. That will be the first time you can really see all the details on that. And we look forward to artists applying for that exciting opportunity. And then the other two things that I'll put in the chat, I talked about the last time. We have an exciting dedication event this Wednesday. I encourage you to come to that for the Hanami project. So come out and join us 5:30 to 7 at the Matsui Waterfront Park. And then also an event for Del Rio Trail, which is November 8th and 9th. And the best way to find out about that will be on our delriotrailart.org website. And I'll put that in the chat as well. So those opportunities, both the opportunities to do commission work and to come out to dedications and events, I think are great things. And we'd love to see visual artists, but also people just interested in public art in Sacramento. Thanks a lot, Shira, for having me, and I'll stay on and looking forward to the discussion.
Oh, awesome. did you want to talk about the other grants from Melissa? About the cultural arts grants?
I did not get any talking points for any other information, so unfortunately, I won't be able to share that. But if I see something, perhaps there was an email that I didn't see, I'll put that information in the chat. And if you know about it, Shira, that would be great. But I didn't have any particular information on upcoming grant opportunities.
Okay, well, I'll give a quick overview on what I got from Melissa, and this is the
That
link
would be great.
to kind of learn more about it. I'm going to move this over so that way I can read it from here. There's 3 opportunities, actually. The first one is for nonprofit organization. That's the Cultural Arts Awards grant application. And again, if you go to the link I just put, you'll be able to find out more. That is a 3-year, so that's for nonprofits here in the region. It's a 3-year grant, and that really helps with operations for nonprofits. The minimum awards of $5,000, and the largest one will be capped at $50,000. And application workshops will be held in November. The second opportunity, some of you have tried out, and it's coming to the deadline is coming up actually for the Creative Venues Grant, and that is for-profit organizations. So that is like if you have a bookstore, a gallery, or a venue that for nighttime entertainment, that's the Creative Venues Grant. I think the deadline for that is October 28th. And that is, the grants range from like 10,000 to 20,000. And then in November, the city will open its creative youth workforce. So grants for organizations who offer youth workforce training and internships. So that will be happening in November. And then kind of like hot off the press, I heard from Melissa, that's still in the works, but there's going to be some grants coming in January for independent artists and creatives. So just kind of be prepared for that in January. And Melissa requested that we do another one of these creative economy meetings, that maybe we talk about that. So yeah, and with that, I'm going to pass it over to Steve. Steve was our District 4 council member.
Hi guys, I just parked at the house. I thought I'd have 30 seconds to get into the desk, but I'm in the car and I'm so excited to see everyone tonight. Shira, thank you for all the work that you, the Atrium, and your board do, not just to convene us, but to uplift and cycle so much of our ideas and energy. Before I was on the city council, I realized that I didn't want to live in a city that didn't have a soul, that didn't have art, culture, music at the core of who it is. And for so long, people only saw Sacramento as a government center. And because we were a commuter city in a lot of ways, people coming in from the suburbs to work and leaving, we had all these terrific artists, but they all thought they had to leave in order to make their livings and make their life work. And one of the things during my time on the council, and it's continued after, is we tried to do is to reshape the creative economy so that we could invest in our own artists, in our own facilities, in our own organizations, and create that infrastructure and ecosystem that could not only give us meaning as a place, whether in good times or bad times. Art is catharsis. It gives us our heart, gives us our soul, but also as a way to differentiate ourselves from a lot of other places. Cost of living is still a challenge in so much of California, but Sacramento is still a really accessible place in many ways. By no means is it perfect, but what I hope we come away from this conversation with is a rededication to those efforts, to investing in artists from all over the city. It's why I helped create the Arts, Culture, Creative Economy Commission and those grant processes that could invest in artists, that are organizations that need capacity, like you were talking with operations grants. Very few grantors want to support operations. And we have a lot of organizations that are still desperately trying to recover from the pandemic. They lost a couple years of revenue. They don't have ticket resources. Donors have fatigue because so many things have been going on. And so the city has to continue to lead the way for a lot of the donor community, for a lot of the regional community to continue to make these investments. And I truly think that if the city can continue to prioritize our artists, our arts community, our arts organizations, Sacramento will continue to be a destination for arts of all kinds, for artists of all kinds. And what I hope is that we don't just throw everything out and start over. Because there is frustration. A lot of people have given up on government and they give up on, do I have a chance for that grant? But whether it's the ones you talked about, Shearer or Donald's work, the city's really made strides in building an infrastructure that could support other people. It's why people are asking us to do those calls for artists. And I hope that whether it's Atrium, many of our other organizations I know serve on the MOSAC board, the Museum of Science and Curiosity, that we continue to tell the story of why it's so important to invest in our own artists while not closing the door to other people who want to come here and make their careers, sell, whatever, but continue to as our community, north, south, east to west, across the city, because there's a remarkable of folks here. I know that we only had 5 minutes. I'll just leave you with this. Like, I had no idea 12 years ago when I ran for council,
Oh,
especially because a lot of arts community is very they're disparate, they're disconnected in some ways. But what I've been really impressed by is how the artists and organizations have connected across barriers, where it's not necessarily you got a grant and I didn't, so I'm going to sabotage you. Now, if you got a grant, I want to know how you did that. And that person then says, let me teach you what I did. And that's the moral of the story. We get more when we work together, and we have more because we've worked together. So I just want to continue to find ways where we make space for people who feel excluded. We make space for new opportunities and new folks to show what they have while we continue to invest in this overall environment and ecosystem. I know Phil Pluckybaum was going to join us. He's going to be the council member for District 4. And, he and I have talked about this a lot, because it's so important to me that the people in this room have a voice at the city, that the staff who are driving these changes continue to feel supported while we still push them. We can always be better, and government's all about call and response, and if people demand something, the city will try to meet that demand within its resources. But I believe that this community has so much more potential than we've activated, and I hope we continue to push forward together.
well, thank you, Steve. Thank you so much. Yeah, Steve, you've done so much for the creative community. And I remember during COVID, what a tough time and how everybody really pulled together for it. And I just want to thank you. During COVID, we advocated hard and we got some of the biggest one-time investment that across the nation. And I think that was really because we came together as a community. And I just want to, as we celebrate, I want to celebrate like the Impact 100 came out, and I know Buddy is here on the call, and they got like a grant, so I'm really happy for that, and I'm really excited to see all the creative communities that are getting grants, and it's wonderful. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Kevin. We have questions for you, but would you like to introduce yourself a little bit to our community?
Sure. How many people are with us today? I can only see me and you.
Oh, really? No, we have about 27 on the call.
Okay, great.
And then we archive and we get this archived. And so people will probably watch this afterwards.
Yeah. Well, I know you want to hear from me, but I want to hear from you as well. And we'll get to that because, I think life in politics is about listening and not always knowing the answers. But this topic, the creative economy, is something that I talk about in my pitch, why I'm running for mayor. First of all, I'm a lifelong Sacramentan. I love my city. I love the fact that people like Steve came to Sacramento and are making this his forever city too. We're a city for everybody. And I think a lot about running for mayor and what it is. Certainly it's today, tomorrow, 5 years from now, and 10 years from now. So I have two teenage girls who live with us here, and they humble us on a daily basis, having two 16-year-olds. But I think a lot about them and their generation, what they want Sacramento to look like in 10 years. And so I talk a lot about the basics, a safe community, addressing homelessness, having a vibrant economy, building more housing so people can stay here and don't flock to other cities. But I also talk about the fun of Sacramento, and I talk a lot about this, talk about music and arts and food and sports. And that's such a key in our creative economy. We have big things like we just had these 2 festivals back to back with Golden Sky and Aftershock, but we have smaller events as well. And so this is such an important part of what makes Sacramento a special place. It makes people want to stay here and come here because we're a vibrant city. And so it's something that I supported as a council member and as your assembly member, working with Steve and others. I made sure in the state budget process, I took upon some money off the top to help groups like the Clara expand and focus on big arts organizations like the Crocker and B Street to smaller ones that we've never heard of, some people in our community, because so much of this impacts neighborhoods. And I really applaud what the city did during COVID and focus on some of the relief money on smaller arts organizations and the creative economy that don't always get first in line as some of the marquee arts organizations throughout Sacramento. So I want to build upon the infrastructure that former council member Hanson just alluded to as mayor, and partner with individuals like you all here today and focus on how we can change our policies, our practices. Of course, it's always about money. What money do we have? Let's face it, we're facing a $40-ish million budget deficit. I'm not sure, as you talked about the question earlier, the city's asking what we should cut. So having the opportunity to invest right now may not be the issue, but what policies do we have place in the creative economy to make it so people can thrive? I think about an example. This is not your issue, but I think of your example that people can relate to is food. During the pandemic, people couldn't eat at restaurants, so we allowed restaurants throughout Sacramento to dine outdoors. This beautiful alfresco thing came to be in Sacramento. And then after it was over, the city says, hey, restaurants, you can continue that. They want you to apply for a permit, and you have to get, all this reinforced, structures and so forth. And only a couple people have applied. And so we're missing out. And other cities across California have found ways to make it easier. So that's an example where I'm looking to be more nimble and focus on things that we saw that worked, and how do we bring that back and help small businesses thrive. So I'm willing and ready to be a partner. I don't know all the solutions, but what I'm good at is listening and partnering with people to say, hey, what's the idea? What can we do to move Sacramento forward in this capacity?
Oh, perfect. Okay, so I'm going to ask a question. A big issue that we have in the creative economy, and I'm going to say this again, please place your questions in the Q&A. We would love it. And Nan, any links for the micro manufacturing incubator? Yeah, I'll have my team kind of add those links. I think one question we had, Kevin, is the creative economy has struggled with funding. We don't have sustainable funding source. For a while, we were receiving TOT. That has diminished. It was taken away in 2008. I think during the time you were city council, the economy, and then you moved to assembly, and the economy has come back, but the funding back to the creative economy hasn't come back. Mm-hmm. And it's not a line item on city budget. And we don't know, are we going to have funds this year or not? And now we're in deficit. That's normally the first thing to get cut. And it makes it very hard to build year after year programs if we don't know what's going on. And then my second part to that is kind of like, you talked about big events like Golden Sky and the Rock Festival that just happened these last 2 weekends. While these are great and they bring in a lot of people and heads in beds into hotels, they're what I like to call spiked tourism. So they bring people in for a short amount of time and it takes resources up from the city, and then people leave. What we're talking about is creative economy, is like investing in sustainable long-term creativity. So no matter when you come to Sacramento, you're guaranteed a good time because there's this creative community there that anytime you go, it's a fun time. Kind of like when you think about Austin, you think about New Orleans. Anytime you go there, there's that vibe that you go for. And that's kind of what we're looking at the creative economy. So do you have any plans or ideas on how you can fix that? Is that through an endowment, through TOT, through budgeting? What are your thoughts on how we keep the creative economy thriving? Because it has been since that first that investment during COVID.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, I want to work with you and come up with ideas how to do that. I've been in politics long enough. I see a lot of people run for office and promise everybody rainbows and unicorns. I'm not that candidate. I'm not going to, write checks that we can't cash. So we have to live in a reality, which is our budget constraints, but it doesn't mean no. So what kind of creativity can we utilize with general fund like TOT, like you said, to focus on? And sometimes it's not even a lot of money. Some of these like micro grants to help really jumpstart this activity. One thing I really want to focusing on is our regulatory process and not always looking at money. Like, for example, I recently met with the venues, some of the music venues. That's a huge thing. Yes, I did talk about Golden Sky, and I actually thought about it. I talked to the promoter and I said, that's great we're having this here, but would it be amazing if we had a little bit of Nashville in us, where you could just walk around and see live music every night of the week and have multiple acts? And so what can we do to focus on the regulatory process and the barriers that prohibit that? So I want to work with people who are practitioners, look at a menu of ideas. Some could be resources. We have to face it. We're Sacramento. We're changing. We're getting more non-state economic development opportunities here. We don't have, the corporate endowment type things that you just possibly suggested. So we need to be nimble. But most importantly, it's about a partnership, about listening and engaging people in the industry that can help provide remedies and recommendations how to move forward.
Perfect. Oh, a question just came in from Rich. What sort of creative practices do you have in your life? What sort of creative artists do you personally support in your life? I have found that we get more cooperation from people who are also appreciators and practitioners of the arts.
What type of creative skills do I have in my life? Am I an artist, a musician? None of that. None of that. I did go to Cameron Ranch Elementary School here in Sacramento, and in second grade I played the violin, but that was the extent of my creativity in music or art. Our family loves live music. I have my little bracelet here because we are big Swifties in our family. So, whether it's Taylor Swift or a local artist, I love seeing live music, and I'm a big fan of going. I lost you. Here we go. For example, I had never been to a country concert in my life before Saturday night, and I was invited to go by Visit Sacramento to go see this Golden Sky performance, and I loved it. And so I love experiencing new things and seeing creativity. I'm always impressed by people's dedication in their arts, whether in the creative side. And I realize that people in the arts, it's a tough field. It takes a lot of effort. A lot of people don't get fame nor fortune doing it. It's just their love of their life. And, and that it's a big part of what makes a community unique as well.
Love it. Okay. Katie, thank you so much. Sacramento has seen rising costs for studio and performance spaces. What measures will you take to ensure affordable and accessible spaces for artists and creative entrepreneurs? This is true.
One thing that I love that we did is a few years ago partnered with, when I was on the city council, I think Steve was there with me too, when we talked about how the city can utilize public spaces to help local artists. So we had this arrangement where we were able to purchase the former Fremont adult school right there in Midtown and turn it over to local artists and local performances and have, reasonable rents and leases to enable the community art groups to participate. So I think that's a big part in Sacramento. We have our marquee arts groups, Symphony, the B Street, the Crocker, but the second and third tier and fourth tier ones are almost forgotten, and they're a lot of times bordering on insolvency, especially when we went through eras like the pandemic. So it's important for us to keep community art groups. One thing that I did as an assembly member a couple years ago when we had a budget surplus, I was able to get almost $1 million earmark for Celebration Arts, a group that's done an amazing work here at the former site of the B Street Theater. So I always want to focus on some of the arts groups that people haven't heard of before and that serve diverse communities throughout Sacramento.
Thank you. Thank you, Kevin, for making yourself available to answer these questions. I think it's great that we're engaging. Another question, how do you see the creative economy contributing to job creation in Sacramento? And what role do you envision for the city in facilitating this growth?
Yeah, again, I'll go back to music, for example. I think that we can do a lot to change the regulatory framework to make it easier for big festivals that are at, like county parks and city facilities like we saw this week in Discovery Park, or smaller music festivals that are on Capitol Mall, or using, some of our streets like the rail yards out there, or Cesar Chavez Plaza, utilizing our public spaces for music. I think that helps, galvanize a fun city, the kind of the approach that I had, and brings more economic mobility and activity to the city of Sacramento. So it's certainly something I think makes a city thrive, and I'm really focused too on young people. What makes Sacramento want to have our young people want to be here? Sure, it's the Kings, it's the A's coming to town, but also it's diverse things like our food and it's our arts and our music. The whole scene is a whole package, and I don't want to put one thing above the other thing. And I always connect these two things: food, music, arts, and sports, because there's so much about Sacramento and what's great and where we want to go in the future as well.
Yeah, I think one thing, when we talk about economic vitality and how we have an implosion with downtown Sacramento and how we need to make it safe, yet I think the creative economy here is definitely underutilized. I think with K Street, trying to revitalize K Street, if there was a program, and I'm just throwing out ideas for anybody to take, but like if K Street, for example, there was a program where we could kind of work a deal with the landlords and provide artists and local creatives a really affordable space, and then scale that up in some way so that way the landlord eventually gets what they need, but then the artists are able to build businesses and revitalize. Like in a way, we should be paying artists and creatives for revitalizing communities, because that's what artists do. They'll go into communities, especially rundown. And I was part of the downtown Los Angeles revitalization back in the day. And we go into these communities that nobody wants to go to because it's cheap and affordable space. We make these studios, we make cool little places, and then coffee shops pop up and this pops up, and then the artists get pushed out. They no longer can afford the place that they built. And
here's another thing that I think is a tremendous opportunity is downtown is changing forever. The nature of people working remotely is changing what we're seeing in our downtown probably for a generation. And so that's asking us a question: what are we doing in our core? And I'm really concerned about the future. And so the creative economy and arts has an opportunity to pop right in there and bring life back to downtown. What I really want is to repopulate downtown, have downtown with people there like we have in Midtown. That's going to take time and years. So I'm supportive of these efforts, adaptive reuse and recycling old state buildings to turn them into housing and affordable housing units. And so we started our first one at the EDD building, and I have multiple other locations that I'm thinking about too. But 45% of the buildings I talked about a lot on the campaign downtown pay zero property taxes. And so, we need to flip them over in the private sector hands, and other commercial activity at some of these low values. I think talks about exactly what you're talking about, is going to areas where there is an opportunity to go in there and bring the arts and the creative economy to help bring some economic activity, but also life to a core that has seen a stronger day before in the past.
I love it. Also in a way that makes sure we don't push them out, right? We don't want to use the artists and then push them out. So kind of figuring out a way that is sustainable for them. We got lots more questions. Sorry. What are your thoughts on using creative placemaking strategies to revitalize neighborhoods and engage? I think we just asked that question. I think you and I are on the same page there. Can you provide examples of how you would support this? I think we answered that. How will you work with, if we didn't ask that, Kate, if we didn't ask that to your satisfaction, Katie, please let me know. How will you work with PBIDs to empower the creatives within the business districts to thrive?
Yeah, I love that. I love the fact that some of our PBIDs have worked with muralists to bring pride back to neighborhoods. I'm thinking about the one that the Franklin PBID did down there when I had a chance to participate in a volunteer day and helping with a little sliver of a mural under the freeway there. But other areas throughout Sacramento, you can bring back life, bring economic activity, and weave in the arts. I think that's all part of a package. And a lot of these areas are in neighborhoods that are very, very diverse. They're very, they're unique from one to the other. And so you can bring about culture and pride and bring, a little more excitement to those neighborhoods throughout Sacramento.
Love it. Buddy Hale. Hey, buddy, congrats on the grant. Buddy Hale from Musiclandria. He has two questions. One, what policy changes are possible at the city or state level that could provide updated tax incentives to potential donors? I believe many potential donors are less inclined to donate to art-focused 501c3s under the current tax structure. Interesting question. And then second question, can you discuss your perspectives on why there are so many empty buildings in Sacramento and what ideas you might have for addressing this issue?
Yeah, I'll go to the second one first. We have a housing crisis. I'm so concerned about this next generation being able to afford housing. The amount of people that are rent burdened, it's become a national issue in the presidential election. You hear, Vice President Harris and our former president talk about this issue on the campaign trail on a regular basis. Right here in Sacramento is Exhibit A. And so all these empty locations, whether they're commercial sites, that shopping centers aren't the same anymore because so many people are buying stuff online. So they're, underutilized shopping centers or office buildings that are obsolete, and state workers are using the new buildings over there on Richards Boulevard or working from home. This is a key issue, and we can have them languish and see blight, or we can flip them over and raise them. And some of these buildings I would give away to private sector development, so they can bring in and build more housing, get more money on the tax rolls. More money in the tax rolls grows the economy, so we don't have a deficit. So we can increase money for our core services, police, fire, and parks, and look at other important activities like our arts. And so I think right now we see it as a negative, but I kind of view it as a positive. How can we turn those things around? What was the first part about the question? Sorry about that.
Policy changes about the
taxation. Yeah, I know that's a great idea. I don't see that's viable. I think governments are struggling to get enough revenue to pay for their existing services, education, healthcare, and municipal services. I don't see governments enacting many more tax credit policies, even for worthwhile things like donations to the arts.
I'm going to just piggyback on this on the buildings. There's a lot of city-owned buildings that have deferred maintenance, and it's an issue. And and I think a big issue is it would be great if the city could sell them at affordable price to the nonprofits that could hopefully have that and then kind of capital raise. But right now there's an ordinance that the city can only sell them at market price. So just something to think about. But I think that there are a lot of nonprofits that if they could get the building, even though there's deferred maintenance, but then they have an opportunity to kind of fundraise. And I know that there are a lot of nonprofits on this call that are looking for permanent homes. So thank you for that. And let me see, Candace, how will you expand the conversation to include areas outside of downtown and Central City?
Well, we talked about that with the P-bids area, and
Mhm.
I think one of the things I really liked about the city, and wasn't interested at all in running for mayor during the I was loved my job in the legislature, and a few things happened. Like, you know what, I need to go back home and help fix our city. But one of the things that I really liked that the city council did is, I mentioned this earlier, they got this one-time money during the pandemic and the recovery, and they invested this in small arts programs up and down the corridors. Some arts programs and the festival grants, the placemaking stuff, things I've never heard of before. I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. They do this down there and there. And some of these efforts were like $5,000 grants, $7,000 grants. And how much it made a difference to have a few activities for families and communities in areas outside the central city. I love that. And that's something that you can do without a lot of money. So I like that concept. And I want to make sure that we continue to focus on that. Smaller organizations and areas outside the central city.
Love it. All right. Jaya, yay. Can you give us a few bullet points of creative art initiatives and projects opportunities you've pushed forward here in Sacramento over the years?
Yeah, mainly in the last 10 years in the legislature, one thing that I try to do, which I was a big supporter, I love this arts in public places. So I try to get the state to have a state law like the city does, where 1% of the capital project should go to public art. I couldn't pull it off, but we're able to focus on individual projects where we'll have public art like the state capitol. So I still am a big believer in that. As we do some of these state projects, have to have public art. A big thing that I try to do is whenever I had a chance to look for some money to reinvest in Sacramento through the state budget process, I focused on the arts, like I talked about earlier, whether it's local performing arts, like so Miss T's program there dealing with youth dance programs for underprivileged kids in North Sacramento, or giving grants to B Street, Celebration Arts, the Clara. In each of these, I think I was able to get $1 million. And then the one thing I'm really excited about that's going to happen is the Center for Latino History is going to reactivate Wynn Park. This was kind of your idea, is look at city buildings which aren't being utilized and turn them over to nonprofits. I think about other cities, whether they're, big cities like New York and San Francisco, of course, where they have in the middle of a city park, they have like a public building where they activate it, where they could have, people sell coffee and pastries or have some type of activities there. The city has a few of the examples of that. We do it in the middle of Cesar Chavez Plaza, that old building. We have some more parks in the central city where we're not utilizing that space. And so the Wynn Park is one thing that I'm excited about. But I think a lot of these questions too, I know you're asking me the questions. What I want to do as mayor is not talk. I want to listen. I have 2 ears and 1 mouth. I want to use the ears more and listen to you all and ask you, what do you think we should do? Give me some ideas that are deliverable, that are realistic within our budget framework and our policy choices, and allow me to be your advocate. Because I don't know all the answers, but I do know it's an important topic. And that's what I'm really good at, is engaging people to come up with ideas and push those forward. And most importantly, working with others, working with my colleagues on the city council, working with the county, the legislative bodies, to deliver resources to focus on these mutual issues.
How would you like us to do that? What would be the best way to present
Well,
these
when I'm mayor, I'm going to set up a bunch of ad hoc committees, an arts advisory group, a creative economy group, and just hear from you. Have listening sessions where I talk for 5 minutes and listen for 55 minutes, just to hear about. Some of that is venting and giving ideas of what they're doing in other cities, but really being productive and focusing on deliverable outcomes, because that's the end of the day, we want to focus on outcomes. So
can I give you an idea already then?
Things in the world.
Can I give you an idea already? If you just have a portal, that people can like submit their ideas to you when they have it, that would be great. That would be.
But I like having the structure so we can have back and forth. So you can
Okay.
tell me, oh, okay, what do you mean? Oh, this is what they do over there in San Rafael. They're doing some program there. I heard about this thing they're doing in Nashville or Portland or Seattle. So talking about issues and ideas, how we can have back and forth and really fleshed out some deliverable initiatives.
Okay. Okay. Two more questions I have here. How do you plan to support arts education and workforce development programs that nurture creativity in our youth and prepare them for careers in the creative sector?
Well, the city of Sacramento has an amazing role in focusing on families. We have all these youth programs through our Parks and Recreation department. Yeah, as I was running for mayor, I counted the amount of city programs that my 16-year-olds participated in since they were born. Preschool, childcare, swimming lessons, junior giants baseball, field trips, summer camp programs. And so the city has all of these programs that focus on our youth that aren't our schools. So the city has a role in helping families. And one thing that I really want to do is help deliver more state resources to expand these. I'll give you one example. A law that I wrote as an assembly member was the law that has free after-school programs now for all kids in the city of Sacramento at every school site, regardless of their income. And that's a big change because after-school programs are so expensive for families. And so we need to find more groups that will sign up and to serve these schools. And so we have to give money back to the state because we don't have enough groups to do these. And I want to find arts groups can come in there and do after-school programs and partner with arts groups that have, can inspire young people between 3 and 6 after school from kindergarten through 8th grade and interact, after school enrichment and the arts. And so that's one concrete idea that I have. But again, the city of Sacramento has a huge role in our youth and our families. And a lot of people think, oh, that's just for the schools, but no.
Okay. Rich asks, what would you think of removing/limiting the barriers to street art? Buskers are often not allowed anywhere near where people gather, and yet in cities like New Orleans, New York City, and Memphis, they can bring vibrancy. What do you think about removing some of these barriers to allow artists to set up on sidewalk streets, especially in front of businesses that are closed or vacant? Allowing artists to do this when Kings games are happening, for instance, could be very helpful to many.
Yeah, I think there has to be a balance. You can't, block activity and mobility on a sidewalk nor business. But yeah, you go to different hot areas throughout the globe and you see, street artists performing. And so I think that there's always a balance. I don't like the prohibition against it. So, it should be based upon degree.
Awesome. Oh, anonymous. I love it. It was shared at the Art Commission meeting this month that the previously announced Guaranteed Basic Income program was abandoned for the traditional merit-based grant fellowship model, which was disappointing, especially since its current structure will benefit fewer folks than what the Guaranteed Based Income proposed. It seems like the city took too long and are now scrambling to spend this COVID recovery funding before it's taken back. How can we, one, prevent this from happening in the future, and two, return to the guaranteed basic income conversation?
I have no idea what they're referencing here, so I don't really have any.
There was a program. I'll just give you a basic. There was a program, guaranteed base.
I know what that guaranteed basic income is.
Okay, yeah, and it was supposed to kind of roll out, but it didn't. So I think that's something.
I think what the city did, and I think I want to be very transparent on our policies because I think sometimes we put out a lot of hopes into something like, for example, we had this idea for a city's going to do reparations, and then people are like, oh, when is this starting? How's it going to work? When do we get our checks? It's like, oh no, we're doing this program. Our budget for it is $35,000. Or we have like a universal basic income where it's so limited and we just want to try it out. So it makes us feel good, but doesn't have really magnitude of having an impact. So I think this is time and time again, I hear about this from my constituents where they think things are too good to be true. So this is something that I haven't heard of before, but I want to focus on, like, for example, the youth fund, which I'm a big supporter of, which has tax revenue from cannabis operations in Sacramento and takes that and funds a youth program every year. I think it's about $12 million. They have a real proposal in there, which I'm a big supporter of, which would have kind of a universal basic income for aging out foster youth, emancipated foster youth. Because if you look at the kids who are homeless between the ages of 18 and 20, the correlation of them and the foster system is outrageous. And so, that's a thing that, as a proposal that we're getting around our heads around. We know how many people we can serve. I think that's something that's real. So big picture, yeah, I'm all in for these programs, but I think we need to make sure that we're honest up front as far as who it is going to serve and the reality of funding it as well on a continued basis.
Awesome. San Francisco is currently doing some work to get artists into currently vacant buildings for pop-up shops with that last a short while, a month or two. Obviously, if it was a success, the artist and the landlord could then work out some kind of deal. Can you think of any ways as mayor you could help this happen without a strain on the budget?
Yeah, I have a great idea. Right now, the city just bought through this lawsuit we had this former, I think it was a Rite Aid or CVS on K Street, like K and 9th. And it's city owned. And right now it's vacant. Nothing's happening there. I think there's a long-term conversation on what to do with it. I'd like to turn it over to, build housing on that location. But in the meantime, why can't we have some type of, activity and rent it and lease it out for free to nonprofits or art groups to utilize that, to activate that, to bring life back to K Street. So most of the buildings in the core are not city owned. I think that's a reality check too. A lot of the buildings, like the city can do this with that building. Well, it's owned by a private landowner who lives in San Jose. So we can't force somebody to do that. But this is a class example of a city land that's right there in the center of our core that needs to have life brought back to it. And I think that's a fabulous idea.
I love it. Okay, we should talk to Scott, just so you know, if anybody's interested, and I'm happy to facilitate. Scott Ford with Downtown Partnership. He'd be all about that, and I'm happy to help facilitate with that too. And does anybody, we're at 7:24. I first want to thank you, Kevin, for spending so much time with us here and answering our questions. Oh, Steve, you got a question. Yes.
Yeah, I wanted to wait till all the questions were done, but I forgot to mention because of the need to continue to develop our political champions. And I believe that Assemblymember McCarty will be a strong champion for the arts. I created a PAC called Sacramento Thrives to focus on supporting our arts champions, cultivating them, focus on housing, quality of life, transit. And so as I think about life after politics, I encourage any of you who are interested to hit me up and find out more about Sacramento Thrives PAC, because not all of us want to or can run for office. We need to make sure good people get there and that we help them do their job to support us. And my son Henry agrees because he loves making stuff, including this thing that he's been shooting the ping pong ball with. Right, Henry?
And it's
Nice.
upcycled. Thank you, Henry, for upcycling.
Yes. He can't hear you, but you're in my ear.
Oh, sorry. Well, thank you. Oh, thank you so much, Steve. That is really appreciated. Wendy, you had a question.
Yeah, I wanted to wait until the broader creative economy questions were asked. Thank you, Kevin, so much for being here tonight and caring about the creative economy and the arts. And Steve Hansen always is such a guiding light and a beacon of hope for the arts. It was amazing to work with you when you were on council. We miss you in District 4. Kevin, we're in Old Sacramento. We've been there for a long time. I'm a longtime board member. What Sheer and the organizations have done to reactivate that area is amazing. Can you tell us briefly, before we sign off tonight, what your thoughts and visions are for Old Sacramento? I mean, you're inheriting some things midstream. You've got your own ideas, your own vision. What do you see happening in Old Sacramento?
Yeah, well, first of all, it's the waterfront. It's our history. It needs to be more than t-shirt shops and taffy shops. I will say that my kids love to go wander around Old Sacramento. It is a very, very special place, and so they really, really enjoy it. I thought what happened there was just tragic recently with the Rio City Cafe closing down. We were able, fortunately, in the state budget to secure $5 million. The leadership saw that article and was so dismayed about what's happening there. They set aside some money we were able to get in the state budget to fix that dock just in time when the A's come to town to bring life back to our old SAC, because we need to be able to shine during that period. It is a public-private partnership, as you know, Wendy, with the state of California. The old SAC area, the state parks runs that. The city has a major role in there. I'm a big proponent of this idea to utilize that green grassy area to build a hotel there to bring more foot traffic back there. I know one of the things that the mayor is trying to do in his final days is vote on using some of the TOT revenues to do some improvements there in Old Sac along the waterfront, because that is, one of our marquees as far as tourism and our history is Old Sacramento. And it's a big part of our economic development and the future of the city of Sacramento.
I love it.
Good to see you, Wendy. I haven't seen you for a long time, so glad you're still busy.
There are a few questions in the chat. Is there a website for Sacramento Thrives or somewhere to get more information? Steve, I think that's for you. If you can add a link to it.
I will. I did a little coming out event for it for my birthday, but I haven't posted broadly. So this is one of the first public places. So I'll drop that link. Doesn't have a ton of information yet, but I will be building a board. We're focused on this election cycle. And there's a lot of good people running. But again, I do think that continuing to have the arts community at the table, small, medium, not everybody has to give a lot of money to make a difference, but we need a collective voice. And that's what I'm trying to fill that gap in. So I'll drop that in the link and we'll continue to develop it.
I love it. And thank you.
Can I ask you a question, Shari?
Yeah.
One thing that would help me a lot is can we go around and I love all these questions, but can you tell me who's here and what organization or group you're with? That would just give me a flavor of who's part of this Creative Economy Coalition.
Well, the creative economy is not like so much a coalition, but
I know, but you're a coalition. You're talking to me right now. There's 25 of you. So I would just like to know who you are. I see a lot of smiling faces and some names I don't know. So if you're part of a group, an organization or anything, can we do that real quick?
We can. This is a webinar, so only some people, but if somebody wants to raise their hand, they can put it in the chat. Or they can raise their hand and I'll let them speak if you wanted to do that. There's a little raise hand. Oh, I've got 2 more Q&As. So wait. Oh, there we go. Roshani. Yes. Hold on one second. Okay. This one. I'm trying to get 1 second here. There we go. There you go, Roshani.
Yo, can you hear me?
Yes, dear.
Okay. Yeah, I'm Rashani Dantas, and I'm with Casa de Brazilian Folkloric Arts of Sacramento. So really glad to hear all these great ideas. And I think my biggest thing as a small arts organization is really about sharing resources, in a way that maybe won't cost a lot, but just having the city serve as an outlet to share resources, marketing, things like that. Amongst organizations. So I know the city has a lot of connections, and so I know that would help us as well as a small arts organization. So
thank you, Roshani. Does anybody else want to say, just raise your hand so you can speak? I know Buddy Hale is here with Music Landria. Jaya King, I'm just going to shout out everybody here that I can see. Gina Adams with oh, here we go. Jaya. Jaya is an amazing.
I know Jaya. She's my muralist instructor.
Perfect. And then yeah, I think we have a lot of people here, and then a lot of people from a lot of smaller nonprofit organizations. Please put your contact information and names in the chat. She said you did a good job on your flower.
Yeah. Thank you.
I think we have amazing creative community here. It's all about bringing them together. And that's what these creative economy meetings are. It's to bring people together. Candace Brooks with Del Paso Boulevard Partnership. Yeah, put in your contact information if you want people to reach out and we can follow up through. And then I'd like to see the city serve as an outlet for sharing resources. Oh yeah, perfect. That was answered. And I just want to thank you for joining, Kevin, and I want to thank everybody for coming. Marie, yes, arts and culture journalist for Solving Sacramento. Thank you so much for being here. This is a way we started these, Kevin, early back in 2018 as just a way to learn what we can do and how we can be better for our community as really listening sessions. And then it evolved, and during COVID, it became kind of like this way to bring all the creatives together, and just kind of like a funnel almost. And we just want to keep it as a meeting place where people can share ideas, they can share issues that we don't know about, and kind of informal in a way. And yes, I know Steve has been with us for years on these meetings during COVID. So, and hello, Nancy. Yay, Nancy, and also an Atrium board member. Thank you, Katie. So with that, I just want to say thank you, Kevin. Do you have anything you want to share? And how can we be better if you are selected mayor? How can we bring these ideas? I mean, I'd love to have some kind of portal to kind of drop them, because sometimes creatives have ideas at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I meant what I said, that you asked me a lot of questions, but I have many more questions of you. I'm an inquisitive person.
Please.
So I want to engage with this community and all communities. I want to be mayor for everybody in Sacramento. One thing that I do see that the mayor does have, the mayor has way more staff than I remember when I was a young council member, when I started, when Wendy was with the city and when Steve started on the city council. So I want to have a dedicated person working on arts issues in the mayor's office that would be a liaison to work with groups and individuals like yourself that can be the portal to get ideas, but more importantly, to have meaningful engagement on kind of what some of our plans are, what some of our ideas are, how we can support this industry and help individual artists and people thrive, but also the city thrive, because and making sure we're a desirable location too for the next generation. So all those things are weaved together. So I'm looking forward to serving in this capacity. 14 more days. It's up to about 225,000 people in Sacramento have little pink envelopes in their living room. So, we'll see in the coming weeks.
I love it. Perfect. Well, thank you so much. Kevin, do you have any questions you want to ask now?
No, I will. I'll have plenty. But next time I do this, I'd like to have less questions and have more engagement and have a two-way conversation.
Okay. Well, how about this? If
like I said, I'm a big believer that I have 2 ears and 1 mouth. So
awesome.
You should listen twice as much as you talk. There you go.
So next time we will do this as a Zoom webinar and not as a webinar, like as a Zoom call and not a webinar, and that way everybody has access. And sorry, my dog is calling. So
yes, and thank you for caring about the city of Sacramento, whether or not you live here or you work here, play here. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Have a good night. We're going to archive this video and it will be live within 24 hours on our website. I appreciate you, Kevin. Appreciate you, Steve. And thank you, everybody here that's on the call. Love you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.